This is a video on how to set up the ClubSport wheel V1 correctly for iRacing. Basically the first thing you want to do is crank the force feedback up to 100, always in Windows, and turn the spring and damper effect off. You can do it also on your wheel, but I don't really recommend any spring or damper. It will just dampen and muffle the force feedback. You want it as direct as possible. And after that you go to options. I also recommend never to use too much force feedback because it will just make the wheel slower. For the Formula 1 car I have it set to 12% at the moment, and this is iRacing 2014 build S4. I recommend a minimum force of 35%. Of course you can vary between, if you want a bit lower you could go to 30 or 25 maybe, or 20 even for some other cars. Of course you must do what feels right for you, but I really recommend 35. It really needs that to fill the gap in the force feedback according to me. So that's what you turn to 35. Basically by default it's on 0, and that's what makes the car feel very loose, and you can't really predict when the back comes. When you go on the throttle it just snaps, and then you're too late, and then bam, you feel it, and then you need to correct. Of course when you're really smooth with the throttle and you can get used to it, but with 35 it's all much easier and tighter, so that's what I recommend you to try. Now I'll show you some footage of how it works in the real world. This is with the minimum force settings on 0. You know the back is sliding, but you can't really feel it. You do have a sense, but it feels much looser than with the setting on like 35 with the minimum force. But I'll show you how it reacts when you drive with 0. But basically it's a lot harder to drive on the limit. I think it's going to be hard to show what it actually feels like and what it does in a video. But basically you don't know what it's going to do, when it's going to snap or what. Especially in these really slow turns where there's no grip. You know it's sliding, you can see it, but it's hard to hold it. And basically when you turn the min force up, you'll see it's much tighter, and you feel it, feel the back go immediately when you're on the limit. Much harder to apply the throttle and also the brake. Because when you feel it go, it's too late, the effect, because the CSW V1, it filters out the low force feedback settings, so you can't really feel it go because the effects are not there, and when it goes and the effects get stronger, then you'll start to find it, but then start to feel it, but then it's already too late. Now let me do a little bit better lap, and then I'll compare it with the other force settings. almost the same lap times, but only once. It's much harder to be consistent with the default setting, because yeah, you lack feedback. And that was a 109.4. And now I have set the minimum force on 35, and the normal force I use is 12. It was the same in the previous video, but you'll see it's much easier to pull away with wheel spin. The force feedback is more tight, so it's easier to feel where it pulls and when it goes. It's still an F1 car, so you still have to modulate the throttle pretty nicely, otherwise of course it will still snap. But the feedback is much better when you set up the minimum force. And the wheel, it really needs it, because yeah, they filter the force feedback effects on the CSW V1, so you lack the low force feedback effects. But this basically is a fix for that. The min force has been around for a while now, but yeah, I never really tried it until I did some benchmarks of the wheel again, of the force feedback dead zone. Before I only used like a few percent, and then I didn't really notice anything. But now, yeah, I did a lot more, and I found something new. Maybe some people have already found it, but yeah, it helps a lot, so I want to get this to everybody. I'll show you how it handles.
What's up, Rick? Hey, Jonathan, you gonna give me more bad time today? Always, man, always.
You still have to modulate it really good in the slow corners, but you can feel much more what the back does. But yeah, it's a lot easier to do it now. I'll just do another lap to show you. It's a bit sloppy. And the setup I use is basically just the baseline. I only changed the gearing. I made the first and second gear a bit longer. I have the brake bias a lot more to the back, because yeah, the baselines, the brake bias is too much forward. And I only changed the ride height a hair. I lowered the rear only a bit, so basically that's it.
You guys doing victory donuts already?
So these are my findings, and I hope you enjoy the new settings and you gain yeah, better wheel experience from it. Thank you for watching.